very simple. Muhammad ﷺ is sinless because his sins were forgiven. So when all your sins are forgiven, you don't have any sins. So therefore you're sinless.
So you're
concept.
saying, according to the way we should look at it, every single Christian is sinless now. So we've never committed anything wrong. That doesn't make sense.
What I'm actually showing you is that your Bible has pagan ideas in it.
You've just jumped. No. You've just jumped from.
No, because
wait. It wasn't divine. It was definitely not divine.
No, the
oh, actually, wait. It is divine.
I said the Son
it's
of
actually
Man.
pagan.
I said the Son of Man. You got pagan concepts in your scripture.
You have pagan concepts in yours.
No, we don't.
Don't you have an entire chapter about jinn? That doesn't mean that like evilness has entered into the Quran, right? I am not fit for this undertaking. Go to Muhammad. Okay, interesting. The slave of Allah, whose past and future sins were forgiven by Allah. So his sins were forgiven by Allah.
Yes.
You notice it didn't mention that about Jesus.
I know. I affirmed it with her. Jesus never sinned.
But that's not so in the context of sins, it is about Jesus, but Muhammad, it's not.
No. I've made the distinction very clear. Isa alayhi salam, right? He never sinned in his life. Okay? Never made a mistake. Okay? But, never made a sin, okay? Rasul alayhi salam, he made mistakes. And those mistakes would be sins. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mistakes are sins.
Okay, right? So he did sin then?
Like unintentional sin, right?
Wait, so Muhammad did sin then?
Yes.
Okay, right. Oh, okay, so
No
you don't think that a mistake is not a sin?
No Muslim would deny this.
Oh, okay, so Muhammad sins
in
then.
fact,
That's
if
fine
anything,
then. You just affirmed what I said.
Rasul alayhi salam was rebuked in the Quran. Do you know which chapter?
Well, I got one here. So be patient. Indeed, the promise of Allah is true. And ask forgiveness for your misdeed and exalt your Lord with praise evening and morning.
Yeah.
And another, Say International says for your sin. And you say that sin just means mistake.
No, it's either intentional or unintentional, right?
Okay, but it can be intentional.
No, but with the Rasul alayhi salam, he didn't intentionally sin. He didn't intentionally disobey Allah. So the sins are that of unintent.
Right. Would you hold that same view to the prophets in
mistakes.
general? Hey man. Oh, you got me a drink? That's nice of you.
Mistakes,
thank you.
yeah?
We appreciate that.
So it's very simple. No Muslim denies this. So, like I said, what you bring to us, it's not something that we're like, it's not new, it's not a shock to the system, it's not like, oh, Muhammad sinned.
Well, I've heard many Muslims say that Muhammad didn't sin.
Okay?
But you said that Muhammad did sin.
And the point here is, forget what Muslims say.
Well,
challenge the sources. Challenge the sources.
Well, all the sources I've read from both the Sunnah and the Quran say quite clearly he sinned.
Okay, and?
Well, a plain understanding of that would be that actually he did sin in the way that we normally think of it.
How do you think of it?
So, if you're being consistent, does that mean that Jesus never made mistakes?
We have not been told about. We say that Allah. We say Allah made it very clear that Isa alayhi salam is pure.
Yes. So 19:19.
Yes.
Like from a Muslim viewpoint, what's the reason that Jesus was pure, unlike the other prophets?
No, they're all pure. They're all pure. But the idea here is that Isa alayhi salam didn't sin. Every single prophet, okay, has his own favors bestowed upon him by Allah, right? So the favors bestowed upon Isa alayhi salam, it's not the same as Muhammad or Musa or Ibrahim. It's not the same. So this is God. But in the wisdom behind it, we don't know. Allah did not tell us why, right? And for us, it's not important because at the end of the day, what is important for the Muslim is to worship God and not associate partners with Him. Regardless, because like I said, all the prophets are sinners, regardless of the manner.
That's not true though.
No, they are.
In the Quran, Abraham lies.
No, he did not.
Yes, it is.
What did I say? What did I say? See, you're not paying attention.
No, intentionally.
No. What did I say? No.
You said about it was a mistake.
No, okay, see. What were the three? I
think you've been caught up here.
What were the three lies?
Well, I know that one of them was that he told the pagans at the Kaaba, after he had destroyed many of the idols, and he left one, the biggest one, he said that it was not him, but rather it was the large idol that did it. That's a lie.
No, that's not what he said. He said
so I'm going to quote Muslim Lantern. I think it's Muslim Lantern, because he says it quite clearly it's a lie.
You can quote Muhammad Ali, okay? I'm not interested in who you're quoting. I'm interested in the sources.
People who are knowledgeable in Islam.
We make mistakes, we're human beings, right?
Okay, so maybe you're making a mistake.
If he said that, then check it.
Sure.
Check it. What did he say? He didn't say he did it, right? This is actually what you hear.
Well, the idea is that...
Sorry, give me a second.
He was... The way that Muslims try to... Yeah, sorry, I'll wait for him to finish.
I'm in one of the crowds. You're gonna have to look in the crowd. What do you call it? I'm just the shortest one there.
Yeah. For Chris.
Yeah, I'm near like the middle entrance, so you should be like near the fences. So inshallah you should see me in a bit.
So next to where they sell the tea or whatever.
No, not the opposite. Yeah, okay. No, alright. Sorry, it's just my friend's sister.
That's all right, no worries.
Apologies. Yeah, we continue. Alright, so
I've heard Muslims say it.
So he says
lies.
ask them.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a lie. What's the second one?
Yeah, I know, but it's not.
What's the second one?
Big one, don't it?
What's the
They
second
did
one?
not do it. He said, ask the big
I
one.
know, but the point is
Because
that he's saying
no,
it's
no,
not
if
me,
you
it's
know-
him.
No, he didn't
That's
say
the
that.
point.
He didn't say
Yeah,
that.
I know, but in the plain reading of the text, like,
I'm on Sabi's
you would interpret that in any other context as, he's saying it's
but
not
that's the
him,
thing.
he's saying it's
But that's
that.
the thing. If
no.
Muslims interpret it as a lie, the thing is, do you know why they interpret it like this? Because when it comes to the Day of Judgment, in that hadith, in that same hadith, if you scroll further up, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's in that hadith.
Yeah, I think you're right. If
But,
you're talking about what I think you're talking about.
It actually, when the people go to Ibrahim,
It says about the lies, right?
it says about the three.
You're right, yeah.
He says, I worry about those three statements I've made, right? But they're referred to as lies, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's how Ibrahim took it for himself.
Yeah.
Right? But what is the message here? The message here is that Allah
find
subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven all the prophets for their minor sins. So they are all sinless.
Right.
The wisdom behind why Isa alayhi salam didn't sin in the first place, that's Allah's wisdom. We establish we affirm what you affirm. That He is the Messiah, He is the Son of Mary. He is exalted, right? But you unfortunately have taken it a step too far. You've elevated Him to God, where He is only a man.
It's not elevated to God, He was always God.
No, but this is not what He is. And like I said, when we read in the Quran, because the Quran is very clear about what Jesus says about the statements of His divinity.
But the issue is the Quran was written how many hundred years?
600 years.
Does it matter if the source is the
But
same?
you've just,
No.
you've just
If it matters, hold on. If it matters about what book came first, then surely the Old Testament would have more weight over the New Testament.
Earlier on,
But that's not what you are. That's not what you
saying
said.
that, none of the Gospels or anything like that was written before.
Right. So you cannot actually
Jesus,
take.
But
Right.
then that's the same logic. Isn't it?
No. But the thing is, you affirm what in texts that come after Jesus has ascended. So when you're asking us about the Quran and it coming later, you are also referring to texts
Yeah.
that are disconnected.
Well, by
From
about
Jesus.
40 years.
But
The
how
disconnect is not. It's not the point. The point is that your claim. Hold on. Sorry. The point is that your
not tied
claim
here,
is
though.
that despite the disconnection between Jesus and the texts, that the texts are inspired by God.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yes, but yours is 600 years later by
It
someone
doesn't
who
matter.
never knew
Well,
it.
the Old Testament is actually 14. Well, the Torah
Yeah.
is 1400 years removed. Actually, more than 400 years, 1400 years removed
Yeah.
from the Gospel.
Sure. But we
Yet,
don't think we
so-
contradict the Old Testament.
But you do.
Yeah, but we don't think we. So that's the debate, then, isn't it? Right?
No, it's not up for debate, okay? Because I don't know if you've seen my 5.5 hour series on the Trinity in the Old Testament, okay? I've tore it apart. Okay, you can only.
You want to talk about it?
I've tore it apart.
But what's
Do
the
you-
name of the video so we can check it out, please? To be fair.
It's a series.
For reference. So what's the name
It's
of the
on- it's on
video?
my channel.
Is it like
The
Twin to
playlist or
Destroy by...
No, I don't do- I
Muslim
don't- I don't
or-
do
know,
this-
just like,
I don't do
give
that
us some
stuff.
indication as to how we can find it, please.
Yeah. But good for me to check out.
The point I don't understand
Sure.
is a book that comes 600 years later by someone that never met Jesus or anyone that lived with Jesus is somehow more authority than the four Gospels that were written around the time.
If it comes from
of
God,
Jesus.
hold on.
That's your claim, but the only claim that you've got is Muhammad. Like, think about it like this.
What
If-
Trinity?
if
It's called What
something
Trinity.
happened-
It's on my channel.
What
Sorry, I
Trinity?
apologize.
What Trinity?
What Trinity, right? It's
It's
an
called What
11
Trinity?
Yeah,
On what's your channel name?
Yemenite Front.
Yemenite
Right?
Front.
It's actually an 11-part series where I go through Paperboy's each and every slide on this subject.
Nice. Boy, no.
He knows about this.
Oh, he does.
He
Okay,
knows
cool.
about this.
Yeah.
All right. And like I said, you won't be able to come back from that.
Well,
You won't.
You can make these claims, but I can also make these claims, right? Can someone pick that up for me? If you don't mind.
But anyway, that's a different matter. The point is, in Islam, okay, if Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is indeed from God, then what he says is true by default. Would you agree?
Yes, but there's nothing that you can do to convince me that he's from God.
Well, what is your criteria for
In
prophethood?
Not for prophethood.
Not for prophet, but that's the thing.
I'm-
In order for
I'm
him
not
to be a
going
man
on
from God,
prophethood now. The incarnate God has come down. I don't need prophets.
what is the
God has
They
come
believe some
down.
prophets in Old Testament sin, but they still believe in the
Yeah,
prophet.
hold on. No, but the thing is, you're okay. So now you're changing the claim. Is like you already have God in the flesh.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have God. As he died, it is finished. That's it. No, nothing that comes after. Can
But that's
be
not what he
added
said.
on.
That's not what he said. Jesus did not say this. He actually said that there is more to come. Right? You believe it to be the Holy
Yeah,
Spirit.
the second coming.
No. Prior to the second coming. If anything, according to your scripture, the second coming was supposed to happen in pretty much the same generation.
No.
Yeah. Okay. But
Show me where you find that.
I don't know the verse off the top of my head, but I can some
okay.
other time. The thing is, prior to the second coming, Jesus said there's more to come. Right? If anything, right? Why does the New Testament actually teach about prophets to come and how to test the spirits and the prophets? Because
does.
there is an
It also
establishment.
mentions
No, but the New
false
Testament.
teachers
No,
that
I
will
agree.
come in sheep's
I agree.
clothing
We believe in the
and
same
come in
thing.
the name of Jesus.
We believe in the same thing. We believe that that people would refer to themselves as messengers after Muhammad, peace be upon him, and we declare them liars and disbelievers, right?
But what more false preacher could come than someone who says that Jesus didn't rise from the dead and that he isn't God to lead people astray?
Because there's not-
What more? Like, look how much Islam's grown. That could be exactly what it's pointing to. The one thing to lead people away from Jesus, using a little bit of truth, but not enough truth. For people to actually believe in.
So what do we
believe in
disbelieve?
Jesus.
What do we disbelieve in as Muslims?
You don't believe that Jesus is the incarnate God.
We don't believe he's God, yeah. And the second thing is,
And that's exactly what you need for salvation. You need to believe that Jesus is God in order to be saved. If you don't believe that, then you are not going to be saved.
did Jesus affirm this?
Yes, he did.
Where?
All throughout the New Testament in the I am.
He did, no,
statement.
yeah, no, he's prior to the New Testament. Remember, the New Testament is afterwards. When did he actually claim this?
What do you mean, when did he claim it?
When did Jesus actually claim this?
Claim to
cannot use-
salvation.
You cannot. No, but you cannot use the New Testament as a grounds to stand on when it is writings made by people, right?
Oh, this
Who
is
came-
the point I
who
was
came
gonna
after?
make. But you're using the Quran to stand on one man.
No, not one man.
Think about it.
The Quran is not. It's not based on one man.
What's it based on?
It's based on God Himself. We
told
believe.
one
No,
man.
but work with the paradigm. No, but you have to work with the paradigm, right? You have to work with our paradigm. As the way, in the same way that I have to work with your paradigm when I'm challenging your belief, right?
Yeah.
So our paradigm is that the Quran is not from Muhammad, peace be upon him. It is not based on one man,
Okay, but
right?
it was him
It is
that wrote
based.
down.
It was based on direct and verbatim revelation from God.
You've got to believe that in order to believe that that is the word of God.
No, we can prove it.
But this is the point that I'm making. You've got the belief of one man. We've got the
No.
belief of several. If
We
something
believe-
happens, are you going to believe various
We
witness
believe-
statements?
we
Or are
believe-
you just going to believe one guy that says, "Hey, I've seen God and I've written this all down"? Is that
He hasn't. Who said he saw God?
But
Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never made the claim that he saw God.
so? What did
you know
make
what?
the claim
Huh?
that God told him to write?
No, he
He
didn't,
saw God
he
in
didn't
the
command him
hadith.
to write. Right.
So how did the?
You don't think the Miraj was?
So the Quran was revealed orally. Okay?
And then-
Well-
And it was revealed orally, and when the Rasul
Okay,
ﷺ conveyed the message, it was written down by scribes.
Yeah.
So the scribes wrote down the Quran,
Yeah.
and they learnt it and they memorized it from him. Okay? Word for word, letter for letter.
Dot for dot.
Tough for tough.
I wouldn't even say dot for dot because
Mansoor
the
It wasn't
thing
dot
is,
there, right?
To be
no,
fair,
the reason why I'm not saying dot for dot because when you're like
But you
the
said
dots are
dot
part of the
for
letters.
dot, letter
The
for
dots are
letter.
part of the letters, right?
Unchanged.
So I don't need to.
Not
The
then
thing
I
is-
wouldn't.
His word for it.
Huh? Sorry?
You've got to take his word for it.
Who?
You've got to take Muhammad's
No, it's mass
word for it.
transmitted.
All Muslims that have existed
It's-
have to take that word, that it was him, because you weren't told by God, were you? It was him that was told by God. So you've got to believe
We know
that
we,
this
we know
one
his whole,
man
we know the whole
has-
history. We know the whole history of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't have piecemeal, right? We know his life in detail. Okay?
You're gonna challenge
So
Yeah,
So
I'm
then
just
again,
waiting for
going
him.
back to
Historicity
the
of Muhammad,
original
because that's a big, big argument.
So
You're in
the
camera, man, we're always trying.
so the thing,
Sorry, with all respect, sorry.
yeah.
You spoke about the historicity of your prophet, so I was just wondering whether that would be a good sort of like moment to
No,
discuss
because
that.
look, I said I'm here giving da'wah, right? So I'm trying to establish
That's
the
da'wah,
the
though.
oneness of Allah, right? And the way and the oneness of Allah is what do you call it? Now
Right.
we've moved on to establishing is the Quran the word of Allah, and that's where I'm going with it.
Do you think it is in the sense that it's an attribute of him? Give him a
Are you gonna keep doing that?
Well,
You're gonna keep giving me
what,
this-
You're taking
this-
offence
this-
to questions I don't understand.
No, because I know you're better than this.
Yeah, but see, that's
I
a
know you're
weird
better
thing to
than
come.
this.
Look, forget what I'm better at. Just if I ask a question, I love an answer, and I'm sure this lady would as well. And I've been very patient, man. You've been giving dawah. I've been cool with it. I've been
Give us
waiting.
dawah, give us dawah,
You know,
yeah.
so
Please give
Like I
us
said,
that one.
the
might change, I think.
as we said, the Quran is Allah's speech. It's His speech verbatim, transmitted to us via the angel Gabriel, right? Via Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then mass transmitted among the people, right? And we have a chain of transmission that survives to this very day, right? Uninterrupted. And we know this because even if we do find a chain where it has the slightest bit of doubt, we remove it to establish the authenticity. Okay?
Well,
Again, going back to the original issue, saying
Yeah.
that God spoke to him
Yes.
and told, like.
So this is
you've
what I
got
want you to
you've
challenge.
got that's faith, right? You've got
No,
to have faith
it's proven.
in order to believe.
How is it proven?
We can prove it. We can
how do you prove it?
Okay?
You can prove that God spoke to
Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes.
I'll be interested.
How?
Right. Okay. So there's a couple of
Then
ways.
Why are we all here?
No. طيب إن شاء الله. So, sorry. So we can do it in a couple of ways. We can either look at the two falsifications in the Quran itself. One is made for the Arabs, and one is made for the non-Arabs. We can look at it from a logical perspective, and go through and try and filter out. So for example, we can say, all right, he's made this claim that he's a prophet, and what are the possible explanations? Was he a liar? Was he deceived? Was he delusional? Was he truthful? And you can try and explore it in
That's
that.
what I'm asking. Proof that God gave this message. Obviously, you can't prove that. If
No, we
you
can.
prove that, there'd be no atheists, there'd be no Christians, there'd be no Jews.
Well, that's where the
there'd be
sincerity.
no Hindus.
This is where the
So it's not-
sincerity of
so it's
people comes in.
faith. It's
No,
going back to
faith. Our faith comes at the end of an evidentiary chain. For example, right? When we say La ilaha illallah, there are 7 conditions to this statement. What is the first condition? The first condition on this road to being able to say La ilaha illallah, to fulfill these conditions, the first one is knowledge. It's not faith. Right? We come to accept these things after we've attained knowledge and certainty of it. Right? So we Muslims use evidence
But that's
to
subjective
establish
certainty, isn't it? It's
no.
not objective certainty, that's
We
different things.
knowledge is when we attain knowledge, we ensure that that you can't play about with it, that there is no doubt in it, and that's when we say we believe, because at the end of why we ascribe faith to it is because at the end of the day we can't see God, we can't see the angels, we can't see heaven and hell, we can't see the past prophets, we can't see the past scriptures. So when you look at the 6 pillars of Iman, of faith in Islam, you would realize that those cover the 6 things that we cannot actually physically see,
Yeah.
apart from the Quran, right? That's the only thing that remains, and that itself is a miracle. So that's why we call it faith. But the road to that is based upon knowledge, evidence, attaining certainty, accepting it, being sincere about it.
I'm sure that it is. But what I'm saying is
So
it's
this-
not objective.
It is
fact,
objective.
It's not proof.
It's objective.
So somewhere down the
Okay,
line,
so
you have to have faith in the fact that God spoke to Muhammad and
No.
gave him.
No, because
Then that's just not true.
at some point you attain certainty that has
No,
happened.
that's-
You can,
no.
like I said, you can do it from the two falsification tests in the Quran. The Quran is actually asking you to.
I would like to have a go at those.
So you
Yeah,
could
no issue.
prove in a British court of law beyond reasonable doubt at the moment that the Quran is true.
Easily.
Easily. You could prove via the natural sciences 100% that the Quran and Muhammad is the truth.
No.
No, okay, so that's
Do you know what? No, but why? But why?
Objective truth.
Right, yeah, it's science objective.
Well, it should be. That's
No, but science is not. Science
It
is not.
hasn't always been, but that's the
No,
aim.
but that's the thing.
Scientific aim
Science is not objective. So that's why I say no. When you're asking for objective evidence, we're not going to use something that's inductive by nature to prove something objective. It doesn't work.
Okay,
Right.
but then you've got to accept that.
So any
your-
form.
your
So for example, logic is
certainty isn't
deductive.
everyone else. There are certain certainties like photosynthesis occurs. No one can debate that. People can debate.
Yeah, there are certain
issues.
things like that.
So-
But like, for example, people try to use scientific miracles in the Quran, right? But they end up using scientific theories, which are not established. And I always say to them, I'm like, well, what if you come 30 years later and the theory has changed and now it doesn't align with the Quran? What are you going to do then? You just told everyone that the Quran is fake because you're using a theory, you're using an inductive method to try and prove something objectively. It doesn't make any sense. So I speak to the Muslims about this, right? So that's why when you're saying to me, can I use science? I'm like, no, I can't use science because it's inductive by nature. I can't establish an objective standard using an inductive
Well, the empirical method is objective by nature and deductive.
Then
No, because science is done empirically.
No, the empirical method. The empirical method is objective,
Well, how would you
deductive by
establish
nature and objective.
Okay. The empirical method, are you talking about in terms of science?
Well, yeah,
Using
the
scientific-
empirical method is the process by which we engage science in.
No, but that's what you use. And but the thing is, in
You're talking about like
you-
scientists and popular opinion. I agree with you.
Yeah, but not
But-
even.
but not the empirical
but
method, no.
The empirical method, you wouldn't find many of that's in the Quran. Right? You won't have much of that. And if it was there, it would align with the Quran. Okay. But anyway, the point is here. We can look at it from the history of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, looking at his life. We can prove it using his life. We can prove it using the two. I'm just saying. I'm just going through the various ways. We can use it through the falsifications of tests in the Quran. We can do it through reason, right? Logical deduction, right? So there are, and there are a few
I
others,
think Smokius
further
might
ones,
have
right?
something to say about that logic.
And that's the road we go down, right? We always do that. But in terms of his life,
Yeah.
okay, the Prophet, peace be upon him, prior to him receiving the message, okay, he was known as the truthful and trustworthy. That was his character, okay? This man never lied in his life, right? And the thing is, the people that he was preaching to, they already believed in Allah. They believed in Allah as their God. What was their issue? Their issue was that they worshipped idols as well. So they worship Allah without any partners. That was their issue. So when he's preaching to them to worship Allah, he's not preaching to them anything new, right? And part of his preaching, it aligns with all the messengers that came before him. From Adam, Noah, what would they call it? Enoch. Right? All of them have said the same thing. Well, unless you would deny that all the prophets have said the same thing. Worship God alone. Do not make images of him. Do not worship idols. Of course, first and second commandments, right? This is the message, and this is what he gave to the people. That already is in line with all the people that he's disconnected from in history, and yet delivering the same message. So that's one aspect that you should resonate with as a Christian.
Like the whole full circle from when I first asked the question, like when we were talking about Muhammad's life and Jesus' life and Jesus being sinless, and I'm not an expert on Muhammad, but I certainly know that in the second part of his life there were like some bloodthirsty things that went on, and
There were wars,
he was a bit less stable. Is it like first the Meccan period, then you got the Medinan period?
And then a return to Mecca.
Why would God have chosen him as the final prophet and not Jesus? It doesn't, like, why would you go from the sinless prophet to then
It's
a prophet who's
very simply because Jesus was sent as a messenger to the Jews, right? He came for the Jews. Now, for God to establish His religion upon the earth as a whole and have His word spread out to the entirety of mankind, He would have to send a messenger that is for mankind. And that's what Muhammad, peace be upon him, was.
What makes you think that Jesus isn't for mankind?
Because he testified himself that he was not a messenger to the Gentiles.
Where did you get that from?
He was a messenger to the.
Yet he witnessed to Gentiles,
Yes.
the Samaritan woman at the well.
And also, his final message was to be to the Gentiles.
Yeah, was to go and spread the gospel.
Also, if Allah sent Isa, and Isa was a prophet of Allah, and he gave his message about believing in one God to the Jews, then after he died, why was there this explosion of
He
Christianity?
didn't die. Well,
Okay, didn't die, sorry. You believe he rose to
Yeah.
heaven, right?
so after the ascension of Jesus,
That's all right, don't worry.
after the
It's okay.
ascension of Isa, right,
Yeah.
so it happened. What do you call it? You can even read this in the histories. Christianity, the first Christians did not actually believe Jesus was God. That came later.
Can you demonstrate that to me?
Well, you can. I mean, Bart Ehrman wrote a book. Did the
No,
first
Bart
Christians
Ehrman agrees
worship-
with my perspective there.
No.
You can
Except
watch.
for the first followers of Jesus, he doesn't agree with you.
No, he agrees they do.
No, the first followers of Jesus did not. The disciples did not worship Jesus.
No, they did.
No.
What it actually says in the Gospels they did.
No, they don't.
But it says in Matthew that they did.
No.
It says that they worshipped him in Matthew.
No, proskuneo.
Okay, that's nice. I like that.
Is not a term used.
Right.
It's an ambiguous term.
But the same term is
It's
used
an-
in Revelation where...
It's an ambiguous term.
Right,
okay?
so you know full well
in
it can be
In
worship.
Revelation, who is it referred to as the Father?
No, it's in,
Yes.
it's in reference to an angel. And the angel says, don't do that. That should be only for God.
No.
So
But
you
the
know
thing
it is. You know it
no,
is
but
worship.
the thing is, proskuneo is an ambiguous term which can be applied
Right,
as
so-
reverence or worship.
So why did you
okay?
say that? Why did you not just go to that point? You could have just said, wait, there's ambiguous terms about whether
No, I
he's
did say
worshipped
that.
or not.
I did say that.
No, you said he wasn't worshipped. But now you're saying it's
I said-
ambiguous.
No, I know it's an ambiguous term.
Right, but
Christians-
ambiguous means it
hold
could be
on.
either way, right?
Yeah, but Christians have
Right,
used it in
okay.
like I said, I had a debate with a Christian about the entirety of the Gospel of Matthew. We did
Sure.
a two-part debate, right? And what do you call it? You can go through it and see how I put everything together to establish that Jesus could never be God according to the Gospel of Matthew.
Right.
Okay, but that's a discussion. I said that's something you can check out. The point is, Jesus was sent as a messenger to the Jews. All right, he is very explicit.
How do you explain the go and make disciples of all nations?
Yeah, Matthew 28:19.
Yeah, Matthew
the very book
28.
you quoted.
Matthew 28:19.
Yeah, Acts 1:8,
Yes, but Acts 1:8
quoting Jesus.
is quoting Matthew.
But it's quoting what was heard of Jesus.
No,
That's what they're claiming. In Acts 1:8,
that's the claim, right?
Right.
But then you have to establish the claim. But you can't, because if this command in of itself was not done by the disciples, they only baptized in the name of Jesus.
Can you show me that?
It's in the book of Acts. Again, references.
Right, so you're saying in the book of Acts,
Are you
when
saying
they
that, are you
baptized,
saying in Acts that they baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit?
they would have, yes.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they absolutely would have, because that was the baptismal formula.
They have never done.
In the authority of who they're doing it in, they say, yeah, we're doing it in the name of Jesus.
I can't remember who Peter baptized, but he baptized someone in the name of Jesus only.
Yeah, no, he says that we're going to just do it in the name of Jesus,
Right, so
which is
it's-
fine, because you can do
it's
lots
not-
of things in the name of
it's
Jesus.
not as per the
But
formula
he's
of
not,
Matthew
wait, he's not saying, and this is how we baptized them. We got them down, and then we did this, and he was saying in the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit. He says, no, we just baptized in the name of Jesus.
Yeah, but
But he's not saying,
it's
he's
meant to
saying
be done
in the authority of whom they're doing it in, not how they're doing it. What do you mean no? What do you mean no? Like, give me a reason why that's not true.
You're making that assumption.
But
You're
didn't
making
you-
that assumption. I'm
didn't
not
you-
making that assumption.
But you
It's
gave
very
that
clear.
same kind of reasoning for why Muhammad is actually not sinless. Actually, no, and even then you came back to the end saying, actually, he is sinless. It's just mistakes. Sorry, he's not sinless.
I said
It's just mistakes.
It's very simple. Muhammad ﷺ is sinless because his sins were forgiven. So when all your sins are forgiven, you don't have any sins. So therefore, you're sinless.
So
It's a very simple
you're saying,
concept.
according to the way we should look at it, every single Christian is sinless now. So we've never committed anything wrong. That doesn't make
Even
sense.
if that were the case, never having committed a sin and having committed sins and being washed
I
away
agree
is
there's a
still
difference.
different.
I agree there's a difference. But the point is, to establish a prophet is not based on whether he's sinful, has sins, or hasn't got any sins. That's not a criteria for
It's
prophet.
not, but it is a criteria of an incarnate God.
No, it's not.
That's true.
Of course it is.
No.
Because who is sinless apart from God?
Jesus.
Jesus is God.
Jesus who is God.
No,
That's-
but it's
that's
not.
thank you, man.
See, you've made him God, all right?
Well, no, the early
No.
church believed he was God. They
The
followed
early
him as
church
God.
did
Yeah.
not.
But the
of
early
Jerusalem-
church is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're the earliest we have of documents. Apart from Paul's writings. You want to go to Paul's writings? What does Paul say about him?
Paul actually.
Philippians 2:6.
If anything, no, forget about Philippians 2:6, right? The 1 Corinthians 8:6 is making a massive distinction between who is God and who Jesus is.
Let's have a look at it.
Yes.
Galatians 8:6.
No, 1 Corinthians.
Oh, sorry.
8:6.
1 Corinthians. Oh, 1 Corinthians 8:6. Wait, that's even worse. He applies the term of Lord to both Jesus and God, and he applies both of them as
he
being.
says-
Wait,
he
let's
says,
have a read.
But there is one God,
Yeah.
the Father,
Yeah.
and there is one Lord.
Yeah,
Jesus
but what does he
Christ.
say they do?
Okay.
What does he say they do?
No, there is. The point is that he makes this distinction.
Let's read it. So it says here. Let me get number 6 up
I
for
hate coming to the
you.
Bible, man.
Yet
I like to
for
speak about
us
the
there
Quran.
is. Oh, I love it, man. Yet for us there is but one God, the Father, from whom all things came, and for whom we live. And there is but one Lord, Jesus Christ, through whom all things came,
Yeah,
and
where
through
did he
whom we
get that
live.
from? Where does he get that from?
Wait. But you just said this was a problem. This is actually making my case, not yours.
No, it's a problem for you
Right.
because first and foremost, there is a distinction between who God is and who your Lord is, right?
Yeah, but that's
a Lord
normal
can
in
be
our understanding.
No, but a Lord can be a human, right?
It can also be God.
But the thing is, if you go into the Old Testament, right? That's why I'm saying check out my response to Paperboy, because I actually go into how even Yahweh is used to refer to regular people and angels even.
The name itself.
The name
Right.
Yahweh,
Gabriel.
I am. How do you explain
No.
Jesus
Yahweh
saying,
is not I am.
How do you explain Jesus saying, before Abraham, I am? How do you explain
We
that?
don't believe that he said that because
Well, there you are then.
look,
So
the
you
reason-
know
no,
full
the
well
reason-
that Jesus
No,
is-
the reason we don't believe he said
Everything
that.
that leads to Jesus being God is
No,
now changed.
no, it's not changed.
And there's a reason for
These
that.
I am statements, where do they appear? Only in the Gospel of John. If it's so
Yeah, but
critical.
one gospel, one Quran written by one man, according to you.
No, actually, the
one-
Quran was written by more than 50 scribes.
According to you, yeah, but you're saying that the word of God, that exact word, was given to Muhammad, who was
And then
one
transmitted
man.
by thousands.
Okay, but the first was given to Muhammad, so it's the same concept. Even if we just had the Gospel of John, it would be an equal thing.
No, it wouldn't be an equal thing because
Why not?
that's the point of mass transmission, right? If something is true, right, it would be mass transmitted.
The Gospel of John was mass transmitted.
The gospel has been
As in like, because at the end of the day, these gospels are trying to transmit what Jesus has said
Right.
prior to his ascension. To have one gospel, right, and have all the synoptics not actually mention this, right, it's a problem.
Why?
Of course, it's a problem.
What- okay,
Because,
so if
for
I
something,
say-
for something to be so profound
Right.
as to establish the deity of Christ, to only be mentioned a good 60, 70 years afterwards, that's when it starts turning up.
Well, no, it actually turns up in Paul's letters, and they're prior to all of this. And Paul's letters are like 20 years.
No, Paul's letters doesn't quote Jesus saying the I am statement.
Yeah, but he's writing to a church.
He's
so
writing to a church about
right.
his beliefs.
No, he's
About
writing to a
Christ,
church about the
Christ.
shared beliefs they both understand. Otherwise, it makes no sense.
Right, so but this is about
So-
the beliefs between Paul and the church, right?
Right,
I'm
so the
talking about what
church
Jesus-
already
no, but-
thought he
but-
was God
no, but the point
beforehand.
is-
And this is what Bart Ehrman says.
No, but the point is, Jesus saying this about himself cannot be the case if it only turns up 70 years later. Such a profound.
Well, I just told you it
such-
didn't. I said it came earlier.
No, because what John is saying is that Jesus said this himself, right? Paul doesn't make the statement. Paul doesn't say when he's writing his letters to the church. He doesn't say, by the way, Jesus said, "I am." He doesn't say that.
Right. He
doesn't-
says he's the exact image of God. And he says he came down in flesh and limited
Okay,
himself.
What we know about Paul is that
Yeah.
he takes a lot of Old
He
Testament
says that
writings.
the Father prayed to Jesus. Hebrews 1:8, I believe.
Okay,
Or
and where's
maybe
the
it was
evidence to
Hebrews
that?
1:3.
Where's the evidence for that?
But you just,
What was he doing?
I don't know exactly.
You think he was going to different cities?
Yeah, it was
No,
very
this
much
is all
reasonable
assumptions.
too.
These are all assumptions.
Well, can you show me he didn't?
I'm not
I mean,
saying
the Gospel account seems to imply he did.
No, where
Sorry,
did
not
they
Gospel
imply?
account. Sorry, the Book of Acts seems to imply he did.
How?
How did a man go and persecute people?
No, I'm saying to go to
Have
other
you
cities.
thought about this? Look,
Yeah, I have.
The point is, he doesn't need authority to do something bad. What is that?
No, because if the Sanhedrin,
Right?
what do you call it? Well, okay, look, the thing is, if he was doing this illegally,
Well,
right?
yeah, I imagine so. Killing people.
Well, would nothing have happened? Would he not have been raided by the Sanhedrin?
I don't know.
Of course he would have been.
How do you account
Okay.
for that?
Of course he would. He's a Pharisee who would be held
Sure,
accountable
sure.
under the Sanhedrin, right? So he wouldn't be. What do you call? Either the Sanhedrin was okay with it.
Let's think about the ways
or,
this could be.
Or he got away with it.
He could have been told by the Sanhedrin to go do it, and
Yeah.
even though they had no authority at the time to do that.
Right.
Or he got told by them and he did have authority
Right,
to
which-
do that.
which makes no
Or
sense.
he didn't get told by the Sanhedrin at all and he went and did it on his own view. He just did it himself. Either one of those, I actually don't think is a problem at all. I don't understand why you think any of those are
It
a
is.
problem.
It is a problem.
Problem
because
why?
it reduces, like I said, it makes the idea of his vision on the road to Damascus very highly implausible.
What?
Yeah,
Why?
I just laid out the reasons.
You think that because he didn't have authority to kill Jews, which is what he was doing...
Christians,
Sorry, well, Jewish Christians, but predominantly probably Jewish Christians.
Jewish,
but-
Christian, same thing. They were.
Okay, fine.
Right.
All right, that's fine. To
call
kill
them-
Christians,
you can call them
call them
Messianic
Christians.
Jews, I
I'll
don't
call them
know.
Christians now. To go out and to kill Christians, you think that because he didn't have authority to do that, that means he couldn't have had a vision.
Because it doesn't establish that he was on that road, so he wouldn't have gone on that road right, towards Damascus if he didn't have the authority
And
to
your
go
proof for
so
that is?
by the Sanhedrin.
What's the proof of that? How do you derive that? I don't understand how they even get that.
Because it makes no sense for a man, okay,
Right.
to go historically. It
Yeah.
makes no sense for a man to just go off to another city
Right.
and then somehow bring people of a certain religious
Yeah, to bring them
persuasion
back, to Jerusalem.
through the gates
Yeah.
of the city where it would be guarded,
Right.
just like that. It
Well,
wasn't. It wasn't that easy.
I don't think that's really problematic, given that that's exactly what he was doing.
So the
No, but
woman
it wasn't
was
what he's
there-
doing.
Well, I mean, you're assuming that the
assuming that
Sanhedrin.
he's done it before. It's just
well,
another
no,
trick.
the accounts record that he was. But you're
No,
saying
it
that
doesn't.
you're,
None of the accounts actually state
he
Paul
persecuted-
that Paul was going out of Jerusalem.
right,
to-
fine.
to
But my
persecute
point is
Christians.
that he was persecuting Christians.
Well, yeah, we
Right.
agree
So
with
the
that.
Sanhedrin probably knew about that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now there are there are two ways this can happen, I guess.
But even
either
so-
they gave him the authority, even though they didn't actually have that authority.
No, exactly.
Or they didn't do
wouldn't.
it.
So they wouldn't have. So we can eliminate the fact that he had the authority from the Sanhedrin, because they wouldn't have given it to him because they know they have no authority in Damascus.
Or they could just have acted as if they did. I don't understand.
No, it
this.
makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, I can give an explanation, and so can he. But neither of us are going to be.
No, but your explanation
That's why it's
makes
kind
no
of
sense.
pointless.
Your explanation.
Why
makes
does it make no sense?
Because why would they even do
Why
that?
would the Sanhedrin
would the
target and persecute
why would the
their
Sanhedrin?
enemies?
Why
Yeah.
would the Sanhedrin sit there and say, we have no authority in Damascus, but we'll send someone there anyway?
Probably because they want to persecute the Christians there and bring them back to Jerusalem for justice.
Why don't they just do that with the Christians that they have authority over?
Probably because there
anyway?
are certain people that they know that they probably have bad relations with, so they want to punish those people. I mean, it's common sense, like.
No, it's not common
Like,
sense.
wait.
This is
If me and you had bad blood or something, and you went somewhere, is it unreasonable to think that, like, I would want to bring you back
as
here?
an
to grab-
organization, look,
like,
as an organization.
It doesn't. I don't understand it.
As an organization,
This
you know you
argument
have no
completely
authority.
fails.
No, it doesn't.
Well, explain to me how this works.
Think back on it. I already said that there's no authority, so it makes
So you
no
can't-
sense. It makes no sense.
You keep
for
thinking
them.
people can't act if they don't have authority. That makes no sense.
No, because you said there's two explanations. Either he did it of his own accord,
Right.
and the second one was he was given the authority by the Sanhedrin. The
Right.
authority given to him by the Sanhedrin makes no sense. Him doing it of his own accord.
But again,
There's
the
no evidence
Sanhedrin
for.
can tell him to do it, even if they don't rightfully have that authority. That's like, it's a bit like if a police station, like, they had some dodgy coppers there and they told them to go out and do something. Like, yeah, that can happen. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh no, that doesn't make sense. Why would they do an illegal thing? It's like, well, no,
we're
of course
not, we're not saying that.
You're saying
they
because
might-
it's illegal, it must not be true.
No, we're
which
saying
is a
because
moral
it's,
fallacy.
it's just like a fantasy for them. It's like, oh yeah, we'll just go to Damascus. No, you're not just going to go to Damascus and bring people out of the
Why?
gate. It doesn't make sense for the
Why?
Sanhedrin to do that
Why?
because they've got no authority there. So if they have
Wait,
no authority there, it's just on a whim. Right?
You know they had
you're
no
trying to-
authority to execute Jesus, right? But they convinced the Romans to do it, even though they had no authority to.
You think?
Because again, according to you, if you don't have authority, you can't actually do it somehow. That's the bizarre
The thing is that even the trial held by the Sanhedrin to convict Jesus prior to Pontius Pilate, that makes no sense historically. They would have never done it at that time.
I don't
Yeah.
know why you would think that.
No, because it's established historically that the Sanhedrin did not do trials at night. It was done at night.
For normal
Look-
cases, maybe.
no, but
but
look-
special
no, no,
cases
no,
about
what
a
do you
man
mean-
who's
what do you mean say-
supposedly inciting rebellion.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the trial, what did Jesus actually testify to? Testify to being the Son of God. That's not blasphemous.
The Son of Man will come in the clouds of heaven. That is blasphemous.
That's
And the guy actually
No.
says, you have heard it from his mouth, you have heard him say
okay.
it.
The reason why it's not blasphemous is because the Son of Man is
Yeah.
not divine.
Yes, have you read Daniel 7?
Have you looked into the scholarship behind Daniel 7?
Yes, I've read Daniel Boyarin, I've read Benjamin Summer.
Right.
Are you aware that there was many, it was common for Jews
Who are
in
the
that
cloud?
time?
Who's the
cloud? The
Who's
cloud
the
rider.
cloud rider?
A divine figure.
No,
The cloud
no,
rider.
it says the cloud rider.
Do you think men ride clouds?
No, the cloud rider is a pagan god.
Yes,
Right,
it was
no,
a
hold on.
title that was adopted by the Jewish people. Do you understand that?
Okay, but the Son of
Because
Man.
it was-
Hold on.
You've
The
just proven
Son-
it was divine.
No. What I'm actually showing you is that your Bible has pagan ideas in it.
You've just jumped.
No.
You've just jumped from.
No, because look, no,
wait.
we've
It
just
wasn't
done it
divine. It was definitely not divine.
No, the
oh,
Son of
actually,
Man.
wait. It
I
is
said no.
divine.
I said the Son
It's
of
actually
Man.
pagan.
I said the
wow,
Son of Man. I
come
said
on,
the
man.
Son of Man.
That's terrible.
I said the Son of Man.
Just
You're
be honest.
No,
like,
the Son of Man is not a divine title, right?
many Jews thought it was.
No, what does it say in
Many Jews thought it was.
In Daniel 7, right? What does it actually say?
He's given eternal kingdom and
No,
glory.
no. What is
and
the
he's
title
the
given?
cloud rider.
What is the title given?
Should we go through it?
One like a Son of Man.
So you're now arguing that it's not divine? Because you just said it was a pagan
Hold
term
on.
for God.
The cloud rider,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
is a pagan Canaanite tradition.
Right.
Okay, so the Jews have adopted a pagan idea and inserted it into the book of Daniel.
Are you jumping again?
No, because now we're establishing the Son of Man in Daniel 7. So I'm
Right.
going through.
So it
this.
is divine.
No, it can't be divine because the thing is, a pagan is a pagan.
You just
god
told me
divine.
it was about a pagan god. So if the Jews take the term, what are they
pagan god.
applying
No.
about the Son of Man?
No, they're not using the Son of Man in Daniel 7. What does it actually say? It says one like a Son of Man. Whereas
Yes.
it's changed in Mark
Yes.
and it's
Do
changed
you know
in
what
Matthew.
like in Son of Man means?
It's not the Son of Man.
No,
Like
like
the-
a Son of Man.
Like a Son of
Yes,
Man.
do you know what that means?
Yes.
Okay, so it means it's
no-
human, yeah?
No,
Son of Man means
No.
like a normal person, a human.
no.
Yes. Oh, I don't know what
One
to
like
say
a Son of
anymore. I don't know
Man.
what to
The
say.
reason why it's connected with a pagan god is because like a Son of Man is connected with that pagan deity in Daniel 7.
So it is divine.
The cloud rider. The reason why I'm saying
The cloud rider is divine. It's a pagan deity.
No, well, a pagan deity doesn't make it divine. There's only one God.
Yeah, but
There's
the
only
point
one
is
God.
that if you're taking the title, what do you think about that?
No.
That's like me calling you Al-Haq. I mean, obviously, it's a divine thing I'm calling you. That's why I wouldn't do that. Like, if you take a other religion's term for God and you apply it to someone, what are you doing? You're
The
deifying
thing
them.
is, no, the Jews.
I think you should probably move on from that.
No, the Jews. They didn't want what do you call it? Binitarianism. That's why they tried. That's why.
And they kept coming up again and again. As a
Yeah.
research of Daniel Boyarin shows.
I know. I've read Daniel Byron.
Okay, so you were aware that there were groups that did this.
I know, but they
The
tried
two
to make
powers
it.
in
They tried
heaven.
to make it monotheism. So when I say to you that it wasn't a pagan deity, that the Jews didn't adopt it to mean that, right? They didn't adopt it to mean that. But what I'm saying to you, that in your Old Testament you have pagan concepts being adopted. Now, what the Jews did with it and tried to harmonize with it, they didn't want to make it look like the cloud rider was what do you call it? Was Yahweh, right? They didn't want to do that, okay? Because that would cause a problem. That would cause a problem because then it would introduce the Binitarian concept, right? Now I know that Benjamin Simon's always Daniel Boyarin,
yeah.
he accepts the idea that the Trinity has crept in, right?
No, he accepts the idea that historically there were Jewish heretical groups that believed in multiple powers.
Yes.
It was all one Yahweh, but Yahweh was
No.
the Ancient of Days and the Son of Man.
No, the Son of Man was not Yahweh. He was never referred to as Yahweh.
You understand? Heretical groups kept coming up because it
I know
keeps coming.
heretical groups have kept
Right,
coming up, but
where they still hold monotheism.
no, they don't. This is
Yes, they
why-
do.
Why do you think the prophets of the Old Testament came to talk to the Jews about monotheism and kept reminding them about monotheism? Because they never held to it, right? They kept adopting pagan things, right? And it leaks into your scripture. You got pagan concepts in your scripture.
You're pagan concepts in yours.
No, we don't.
Don't you have an entire chapter about jinn? That doesn't mean that
They're not-
evilness has entered into the Quran, right? Of course not.
No,
Of course not.
no. Is it?
So what? If you borrow a term from something,
No,
that doesn't
we're
mean
not
you
borrowing-
affirm
we're not-
that you believe.
We're not borrowing a term.
Does using the term cloud rider mean they affirm that pagan deity?
They affirm. No, the
That a
Jews didn't-
title of God can be the cloud rider.
Yes.
Right, thank you. There we go then. So it's not affirming pagan deity beliefs. It is merely copying them for the use of the
no,
title. In the same way that pagan deities, say Allah for their gods.
They're copying it and adopting it as their own. So which means
But all religions do that, my friend.
no, Islam does not. Islam makes it very clear. Whereas in Psalm was it 95 or something, it says that Yahweh is the highest or the most high of all the other gods, right? The Quran doesn't say that at all. It says there is no God. It just cuts it
Oh,
off.
there is no God. There's
Right.
one God. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like there are no other gods. There's no God except Allah. He always says that. It never acknowledges the other deities as something to be taken seriously, whereas the Old Testament does.
I acknowledge it's taken seriously. What do you mean by that? Not to say that it's true, but rather that there are these other gods. Yeah. As in,
Yeah, but-
there are fake gods that people establish for themselves.
No, okay. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about a taghut, right, the false deities, He gives them no importance whatsoever, right? Whereas the Old Testament gives them importance. Hell, it's even like in Daniel 7, it's actually been put into a bloody prophecy. That's how important it is. Okay, now, like I said, there's a distinction between one like a son of man and the son of man. Okay, and the son of man. There is a change in identity. The son of man is not a divine title, right? One like a son of man can allude to that. The cloud rider, if you actually look into the two-throne theophany, you would realize that the cloud rider is actually not a divine thing.
There were heretical groups that thought it was.
But
The people at Jesus' time thought it was.
Scholarship that the way the Jews have adopted it, they didn't take it to be divine, right? So, because they understood that this was the lesser god of the Canaanites, and they didn't want to attribute that to the Most High. Okay, it makes no sense for the Jews to do that.
Again, the Jews at the time of Jesus thought it was a divine title.
No, the Jews at the time of Jesus, what do you call it? They had all sorts of ideas, but the Son of Man, okay, referring to yourself as the Son of Man or the Son of God, and even the Cloud Rider would not make you blasphemous.
Okay, if you think so. But I'd very much disagree with that based on the New Testament.
What are you looking for?
The verse in the New Testament about it.
What about the trial?
Yeah. Do you know where it is?
I can't remember which chapter off the top of my head. It's in Matthew, well, it's in Mark as well, but
Yeah, it looks like it's in Mark. Hang on.
it's in Mark. Yeah, that's the first thing that you'll get.
No, it's not this one. It does say it here, but it's the reaction that I want to get, because the people he says it to consider it blasphemous. Well, I'll show you this anyway. But at the time, people will see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory, and he will send his angels and gather his elect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth to the ends of the heavens. So Jesus considered himself the cloud rider. He also thought that he had great power and glory, and that he has angels, and that he has an elect. I mean, it's quite clearly divine. At least how Jesus interpreted it.
No, because to use a non-divine title to then go forward and...
Do you know where that is in that verse in the Bible where Jesus says you will see the Son of Man coming, and
Matthew.
And the guy says you have heard him say this, it's blasphemy. I swear. Huh?
Just type in trial of Jesus in...
I think it is, but I'm trying to remember
But
for the
trial
life
of
of me
Jesus,
what
look.
gospel. And
Look, just go Sanhedrin, trial of Jesus, Matthew.
it's still on that.
Matthew 26. So, what do you call it? In verse 64, Jesus, this is after they say, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God. This is in verse 63. And then 64 goes on, you have said so. Jesus replied, but I say to all of you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One,
Yep.
and coming on the clouds of heaven.
Yes.
Right? So this is referring to the cloud rider.
What, can you read the next verse to me?
Okay.
It might be similar.
Then the high priest tore his clothes and said,
Oh.
he has spoken blasphemy.
Oh, thank you.
hold
You
on.
found it.
Hold on.
Thank you.
No, I know this. Well, I know this is the thing.
Well, neither of us knew it because we couldn't find it.
No, I knew it was in Matthew. I knew it was in Matthew. I just forgot the
Alright.
chapter. But all I just typed in Google was the Sanhedrin trial of Jesus.
Right, so
in Matthew.
the high priest
so
understood it as blasphemy.
But look at this, right? Check this out. Where is the blasphemy? Because he's not claiming to be divine here. Look, he says, sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One.
Yeah,
Who's the Mighty One?
the Father.
The Father,
Yeah.
right? Now, he's not claiming to be
Father.
equal to the Father. He's not claiming that he's not claiming
Wait,
to be divine.
sitting at the
He's-
right hand of him. Sitting at the right hand is to establish equality. In Jewish understanding, that's exactly how you would do it.
No, it
So
actually
sit at the
actually
right
isn't.
hand of someone.
No, because if
Sit at the right hand is sonship.
Huh? It's
to be an heir, to be a son. If you
the Jews consider them considered
the sons of the father, yeah,
consider themselves
children
to be
of Ishmael,
children of not
well, not
children of
now,
Isaac, children of Isaac, and what they call it,
Sorry,
but children of God.
Sorry, it's children of Isaac.
Yeah,
Isaac,
they consider themselves to be children of God. Hell, as we know, what they call it, they were called gods themselves, right?
Yeah.
So don't use certain language like sitting on the right hand to affirm, oh, there's some sort of co-equality there.
But he says there was.
No, that's not what Jesus is using Jewish language.
But
Jesus
he says
is a Jew,
yeah.
preaching to Jews,
Yeah.
speaking to Jews in the Sanhedrin,
Yeah.
right? He's using Jewish language, right?
Yep.
So
And he interprets it as blasphemy.
No. The Jews wanted him dead already. For them to tear their clothes off and say this is blasphemy is not surprising. They already wanted him dead.
Come on, you've just made my
No,
point.
no.
That's fine.
No, they already wanted
No,
him
you've
dead.
made my point. You said yes, he is saying it's blasphemy.
No.
But here's why he's saying it's
No,
blasphemy. So that's,
because
that's a
when you
changing
actually
point.
look at what Jesus said, it's actually not blasphemous by nature. Because
Sitting at the right hand of the Father.
No, because he identifies himself as the Son of Man. It's not
The
a
Son of
divine.
Man.
It's not a divine title.
Well, he seemed to think it was.
No, because then he identifies who God is, the
And
mighty
he's
one,
at the right
right?
hand. At the right hand of him.
He's at the right hand of God.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not blasphemous.
To be at the right hand of God.
To be at the right hand of God, right?
Means to-
in Jewish terms, means close to God.
No, it means like a partner in something of
No.
him. Like a son would be with a
No,
father, a
no.
son who inherits the estate.
Because
Yeah,
I said- because
that is how you'd see it.
So then we can just say that the Jews who sit in twos and threes, remembering God, they themselves are God, because that's the Jewish interpretation of
What?
calling judges and people who congregate remembering God. They themselves become gods.
What's that got to be sitting on the right hand of the Father?
So I'm saying if you're going to use this sort of language and then try and say, oh, this is some sort of divine aspect. then
Well,
you
it's
might
not
as
me
well-
saying it,
then
it's
you-
him saying
No,
it.
it's not him saying it.
You
Learn
even
Jewish
did.
language.
You
need
did.
to learn
But
Jewish
here's
language.
why he's saying it.
You need to learn Jewish language, right? And if you look through the whole chapter,
Okay,
if you
why
look through
is
the whole
blasphemy
chapter,
not
from
understood as...
from the beginning of the chapter?
Yeah.
What are Jews trying to do? They're trying to plot against him to get him killed.
Right.
Right. And the whole Sanhedrin trial
Yeah.
was to legitimize.
Okay. So
their plot.
why would he then turn
Is that-
to
no, but
those
is that
around
true?
him?
No,
Yes,
but
it
is
is.
it true? Right.
Now why would he turn to the whole crowd and say, "You heard what he said? This is blasphemy." That's because
What
he
was it?
knew it would relate to them because they would understand what that means.
It's playing the crowd. It's playing the crowd, right? Because he's
I don't
speaking
know
to
what
a
to do about that.
congregation
I don't know
that
what to
they
do about
themselves
It
want
would have
Jesus
been
dead.
blasphemy. That's why he made the claim because he
I
knew
mean,
it would
okay.
resonate with them. Look, see what he just said? He just said he will sit at the right hand of the Father. He is the Son of Man.
So
That
you're
is
saying,
blasphemy,
so
and
you're
that's
saying-
why he said it.
So you're saying if the Jews accuse Jesus of something, by default it's true.
That they're sincere, yeah. Unless you can
So by
establish
default they're sincere.
in the normal way we communicate, we don't assume the other person's lying.
Okay, so when Jews thought that Jesus was a soothsayer or a madman, and they accused him
I
of
believe
such.
they were truthful in what they thought of him.
Okay, so but it
you
doesn't
understand?
determine the reality.
No, only what
Right.
they thought.
So why does
So
this,
he thought
why
he
does-
was blasphemy. Thank you.
No. So why doesn't this claim of the Jews that he's blasphemous? Why is that now determining that what Jesus said is?
No, I'm
a
saying
divine
he,
claim?
and I've always said it.
No, he hasn't said it.
I mean, technically, I don't even agree with this because blasphemy, in our understanding, would be incorrect here. We don't think that Christ is blasphemy. That would be heresy to us. What I'm saying is that he thought it was.
actually, it would be blasphemous too, because he's not making a divine claim yet.
Apart from the fact that the Jewish people think he is.
He
Come
identified
on,
himself as a human. How is
Right.
that blasphemous? He identified who
No,
God is.
at the right hand of the Father.
The right hand of the Father is not.
Is
the
there anyone
right hand.
else who sits at the right hand of the Father?
So
So he's established. He's already basically saying, "I'm better than Abraham. I'm better than Isaac. I'm better than
this
Moses."
is a
better than
synoptic. He
Noah,
doesn't say
better-
that. He doesn't say he's better than Abraham. Thank you, Mark.
He just said he sits at the right hand of the Father. Does Abraham sit at the right hand of the Father?
No.
Does Moses?
Well,
Noah.
Abraham is God's. Well,
Does Isaac?
Abraham is God's
Isaac?
friend.
Elijah?
Abraham is God's
Daniel?
friend.
Like
Abraham
you
is
know-
God's friend.
So none of the prophets do, but Jesus says he will.
He's a prophet.
But you just said none of the prophets do.
Like I said to you before, each prophet had his own favor given to him.
So you do affirm that Jesus did that? Yeah.
Moses was given the favor. For me to say that Jesus is close to God is not blasphemous. To use
To
Jewish
say it
language,
is right. Okay, wait.
to use Jewish terminology.
Could you say that Esau is sitting above the arch, above the throne, because Surah 158 says he is? Like you would say, no, you can't interpret it that way because that'd be blasphemy.
Does it say that?
Well, it says it was taken up to him.
Taken up to him.
Yeah. So where is he?
We already have an explanation of what that is, of exactly where that is.
Where is that?
You tell me.
Well, my understanding, and I've asked Muslims about this, is that Allah is above his throne, his arsh.
Allah is above his throne. Yeah.
Okay, so if Jesus is taken up to Allah, where is Jesus? Where is Isa?
It's explained where he's taken up to.
Where?
The second heaven.
Where's the seller?
In the hadith.
Okay, so you're putting it outside of the Quran now.
No, we have a twofold. What do you call it? We have two sources: the Quran and
Well,
Sunnah.
which from my perspective is exactly why you're kind of over glorifying Muhammad,
We're not
because
over-glorifying it.
because you have to accept the sayings and narrations and traditions of him as equal with the revelation.
No, because they are revelation. They're just in a different format.
They are revelation.
They are different. It is revelation. What Allah has conveyed to Muhammad in the hadith. This is revelation to him as well, but in a different form. There isn't one form of revelation when it comes to Islam.
All right, then your scripture technically comes a lot later than it originally thought it
If
did.
anything, what do you call it? There's a hadith of Rasulullah. He said, like essentially, and I'm putting it in the gist, that everything from prophethood has been lifted from this earth, except for one thing. All types of revelation that have been given to prophets have been lifted from this earth, except for one thing, and that is the good dream. So when a Muslim has a good dream and it's then fulfilled in real life, that is actually revelation.
It's a good dream, it's film, okay. If you have a dream of Muhammad, is that always true in some sense?
It's always true.
Always true. So if you have a dream of Muhammad,
You've seen him.
and it's just,
Then
you've actually seen
Then
him.
you've actually seen him.
Can Muhammad dream of himself?
Why would he?
So whatever he's doing, he's really doing. So if you have a dream of Muhammad, there is a real sense in which what you're looking at is real.
As in that is what he looks like. It's not like he's
Okay.
that he's physically there.
Right. Okay.
But in
okay,
terms
okay.
of like,
so it's
do you
not
know,
like
like
it's physically
sometimes
there.
like,
Right,
like sometimes people dream of certain people, but then they would meet them in real life and they look slightly different.
okay. Sure.
So when we
Brother.
say what do you call it? Because in the narration of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
Yeah.
he says that Iblis, that Shaitan can take the form of anyone, but he cannot take my form. So if you see me in a dream, you've actually seen me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so that's the tradition. So that's what I'm saying.
Do you believe that? Like, do you believe that if you have you ever had a dream of Muhammad?
No.
If you did have a dream of Muhammad, that must be what he looks like.
Yes.
So but you see that's obviously not true though, because I could have a dream where I see Muhammad and he looks like me, and he says I'm Muhammad, and I'll be like, no, that's definitely not Muhammad, you know, and you'd be like,
we have a description of what it looks like.
right, and it wouldn't be me, right? It wouldn't look like me. Exactly.
So this is why when
that
people,
hadith is wrong.
No. So this is why when people say to us, "Oh, I've seen Muhammad in a dream,"
Right.
we ask them to describe him.
But wait, this is just about his appearance though.
Yes, his appearance.
Right. Okay. So I guess what he does determines whether it is him. I guess. So I guess
No, we only told if we see him.
I know, but in order to establish if that was him to whom you have seen,
We just
you need to know.
refer back to his description of when he lived. That's it. We don't ever say that he's doing something in the dream. We just say if you saw him, then you've actually seen him. It's not a trick of
Wait, but it can't be currently though, because like you said earlier, he's in the grave, right? So you're not just seeing him in the grave, are you?
He look in the as he is in the grave. Remember, in Islam, the earth doesn't eat up the prophets.
Right.
So if we were to open up his grave, he will look as he did 1400 years ago.
You know, it'd be great if we could do that, because then we would know if Islam is true.
Well, we don't.
I mean, it'd be great proof for me. I mean, like, I'd be like, hey, like what they said is true. Yeah.
Why would you want to desecrate the grave?
Well, I don't think you have to desecrate it. You don't have to like damage it or attack it or do anything with it.
Opening
You
a grave is desecration.
Okay, yeah,
by
that's fair.
default.
That's fair. I understand that, but it's still a bit.
Oh, this is something we take on faith.
Well, I know. Okay, that's fine. It would just be nice though, because then you could demonstrate
You
it.
think it wouldn't be nice for Muslims? We would love to see the Prophet. We would want it more than
Do you know where his grave is?
Yes, in Medina.
Are they built over it? They're built over it.
No. So, have you ever seen the Medina Mosque?
No.
So basically,
I've seen
where
the
the green dome is, that was the house of Aisha. So because obviously in Islam you can't pray in a graveyard.
Right.
But people get confused. They think that the Masjid al-Nabawi like you can pray in that area. You can't. There's guards there to make sure that you don't pray, you don't start worshipping the grave and stuff like that, to ensure monotheism and the correct stuff is done. So basically, where the green dome is, underneath that is his grave.
Okay.
And it's caged.
But can you get there, or is it like not?
It's caged off. So you can see through the bars, but really what you're actually seeing is another wall that separates the graves. So the graves, there are 3 graves there. Muhammad, peace be upon him, Abu Bakr and Umar. They're all beside each other. But there is 2 walls, and then you have the gate.
Interesting. Yeah. You know, there's some people doubt the existence of Abu Bakr and Umar.
I know, but we know where they are.
That's what I mean. Like we could prove it. Like,
No, Abu Bakr and Umar, their bodies are decayed.
Oh.
They're not prophets.
Well, I mean, okay. Yeah, okay. All right, fair. That's interesting. I don't know. Should we end it there? Because I think we've been going for a long while.
Yeah, like I said, when it comes to Islam, please do yourself the favour of learning the context behind these.
Well, no, I think you affirm what I said was right. It's just in the way that sin can mean mistake according to your religion.
Of course.
Which mean that Isa also
in the same way as Jews,
never made mistakes.
In the same way as Jews believe in intentional and unintentional, believe in the same. Oh, I've made a mistake. This is why, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala...
But then it would mean Jesus never made any mistakes.
Like I said, according to the revelation, Allah doesn't mention any sin that Jesus did. So as
but
far
the
as we
hadith
know,
say that Satan never touched him.
Yeah.
Oh, and his mother actually. His mother sinless? You affirm like a Catholic doctrine.
I can't remember. Oh yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Mary is
referring
referred to as pure as well.
Yeah,
but in terms of her
Satan,
chastity.
every person that's born, Satan touches or stings them or something.
Yeah, except for Jesus.
And Miriam.
I
Do you want me to show you?
I think you're right. I'm not too sure. You have to remind me.
I'm going to show you if you want. Yeah, that's fine. But I mean, that would mean that neither Miriam nor Jesus made mistakes.
Well, that's the thing. Mary is actually. We don't have anything. What do you call it? That says she made a mistake either. But to be honest, like for example, we have the Prophet Dhul Fiqh in the Quran. He's actually mentioned just once in passing. So we have no information about him as well. So technically, if you want to say that just because the Quran doesn't mention any specific sin about him,
but that's not what we're...
I know, but
it's
that's
the
what I'm
hadith.
saying. So what we're saying is, according to the revelation, we don't say that Jesus committed any sin. Because, because Allah has not confided that information.
There is hadith that says quite explicitly he hasn't committed sin. I need to try and find that. Sorry, things. Yeah. This guy. It's a variant of the hadith we read, but basically some say it, some don't. Some say, as far as I understand, some say that Jesus says, although I have not committed sins, I am not worthy to do this. Go to Muhammad, whose past and future sins were forgiven. But some miss it. But I think this is the same one.
Khalil Rahman.
Adam will remember his sin. Go and tell him.
He just says, I am not fit for this undertaking.
Yeah.
Right. That's what he says.
But there's a lot of these. There's lots of variants of them. Like, well, you know what I mean? Different ones of it. I don't have the other one saved.
So what do you call it? But that's the thing. It just simply says this. But Jesus himself is questioned on the day of judgment according to the Quran and everything. So,
well, Jesus.
The point here is we have not been given any information whether Jesus made a mistake in his life. Right? We know he is pure. We know he is born of a virgin who herself was pure. From a chastity perspective. We know she was chosen by Allah, right? She's actually one of the four queens of paradise. Okay. So yeah, obviously Mary has a high stature, but she's still not someone to be worshipped.
Yeah, sure. So, but I mean, the idea that Mary and Jesus were not touched by Satan at their birth seems...
I don't know about Mary.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Well, go look it up. Maybe I misspoke, but I'm fairly sure.
Yeah, I don't remember ever coming across that. Jesus, yes, that's true. That's in a hadith.
All right, then let's just say Jesus then.
But this is the thing. This is a favor from Allah upon Jesus.
Oh, that's fine.
So this is the thing. Like when Christians say about Jesus' nature and the aspect of him being sinless, the fact that he was never touched by Satan, and all of this, which is simply say, well, that's a favor. That's a favor upon him. But Jesus was still tempted by Satan.
Right.
He wasn't touched by Satan, but he was still tempted by
Sure.
Satan. And this is not because we believe the biblical perspective, because Allah says this about, every message. Every time Allah wanted a message to be delivered to the people, Satan will try and throw something in there. So so we know that Satan has tried that with the gospel that Jesus was preaching. So
He also
tried to
tried
chuck
it,
something in. Tried it with the Quran as well. Yeah.
You know Surah 53, the Satanic verses?
It's not, no, the satanic verses is inauthentic. I've made a full
There is
refutation of
Muslim scholars who say otherwise. And the reason they do is...
Check the chain of narration.
Well, it's actually, that's kind of not the thing. The reason why it's generally said to be... let me rephrase it. It's not said to be true.
Right.
It's said to be something the Sahaba thought was true.
No,
because
this is a tradition that came
well,
later on.
no. All of the traditions go to the Sahaba. So you've got
it's
multiple...
disconnected. They're disconnected.
Well, that's fine. But my point is that...
Look, do you know Ibn Abbas? Do you know Ibn Abbas? We have
Ibn
this-
Abbas, yeah. The father of Tafsir.
How many narrations do we have of him?
I know there's at least one. I remember Ibn Abbas being
In
one.
terms of his tafsir, right? We have this whole thing. I forgot what it's called now. The book is. The book is called that. It's attributed to him. Now it's attributed to Ibn Abbas, but the chains are disconnected.
Well, first of all, it depends if you accept Ibn Abbas's tafsir, right? Because supposedly we have that today. But some people question...
We have what's attributed to him.
Yeah, sure, right. But was it actually him who did this, or is it not?
Most of it not.
Fair enough. Well,
Most of it not.
I've heard that's the reason why I avoid it is because I've heard Muslims say different things about it.
Yeah, most of it is not authentically
Right,
attributed.
but there are... I'll show you. Have you seen...
No, but that's what I'm saying. Just because a Sahabi is mentioned in the chain doesn't mean it's authentically traced to that Sahabi.
Right. That's fine. But my point is that the earliest
saying.
histories seem to think... Well, the earliest histories say that this was being said here. They don't really pass judgment on
When
it.
was the first time this story came up?
In a written source, Ibn Asaq, probably.
Right. How many years was that? It was
I'm
over
going to be
100 years.
generous. I'll go with the 750 date and say, 750.
So about 100 years.
Yeah.
Right, let's say 100 years.
Well, this is the earliest sirah that we have of Muhammad, so... written down anyway. Yeah.
And Ibn Ishaq already says that he includes non-authentic stuff.
That's fine. I'm not trying to say that
but that's what I'm
he
saying.
necessarily thought it
So-
was,
but
but
the thing
he
is-
thought the Sahaba, or at least some of them, did think that.
But the thing is, this idea that anything got into the Quran
Well, I'm not saying anything
is
goes to the
refuted.
Quran.
No, but this is what
Because
I'm
obviously
saying.
it didn't get in the Quran, that's the whole point. But my point is that they didn't have an issue, and this author that I can show you if you want, his interpretation as a Muslim is that it isn't true because he can't say that theologically, but he says that the Sahaba definitely thought this was true, at least a good amount of them, because otherwise you wouldn't have over 50 different narrations.
No, but it wasn't transmitted from them.
Yeah, but there are over 50 claimed traditions from, like Ibn Asaq,
Are they all connected? How
Al-Tabari
many
in
of
his
them are-
histories, Al-Tabari in his tafsir mentions
How many?
it. Like,
How many of them are connected? How many of them are connected? Changed to the Sahaba?
I think there are a few connected, yeah. There are quite a lot of cases, yeah. But my point is that you have to wonder why on
None of
earth
them
was
are
any...
connected.
Then why are there over 50 stories of this? Were the early Muslim community making up
Yes,
this?
loads.
Well,
The early Muslim community, there were people that made
So
up
they
laws.
probably did believe it then?
Hence why.
you can argue it might not be true,
No,
but my point is that
hence
they
why-
thought it was.
Hence why we filtered things out. From the
Right,
thing is,
that-
people think that we've been filtering hadith from Bukhari. No, the tradition of filtering out the authentic from fabricated happened way before Bukhari. Bukhari just enhanced the criteria. That's all he did. But if you look in what Bukhari narrates, you'll see the teachers. Like his teachers before him, they have their own stuff, like Muwatta Malik. We still have that, it's extant, right? It's 100 years before him, right? We have, what do you call it, Musannaf Abdul Razak and other sources like this. All of them predating Bukhari. I think we've got actually a hadith manuscript that's attributed to Ali himself. You know, it's not very big, but I think that's true. I'm not too sure off the top of my head, so don't quote me on that.
Right, I can show you this scholar. I think it's called Before Orthodoxy, the Satanic Verses in Islam. And he himself as a scholar in this, he was a Muslim, goes through every single of the 50 different narrations.
Yeah.
And he says, I can't say it's true, but people thought at the time it was. And he actually gives
people
an,
who are transmitting
he gives
obviously think that.
He gives an explanation. He says, basically, our understanding of Muhammad has changed from what the early Sahaba had, in that the early Sahaba thought of Muhammad as just a messenger who can make mistakes. And that when Shaitan gave him these things, and then later Jibreel comes to Muhammad and says, look, why have you done this? And rebukes him, and it changes it. They're like, oh great, look at how Allah has come and interceded for his prophet. They don't see it as an issue. It's like a superhero narrative, basically.
The thing is, it depends on who you're talking to, but the reality is that these chains do not connect to the early Muslims. Now, this idea that the early Muslims believed there was a prophet who made mistakes, of course, they knew he made mistakes, right? In fact, we have hadith where he, where he made religious mistakes as well as non-religious mistakes. This is why he's rebuked in Surah Abasa. Abasa wa tawalla an ja'ahu al-a'ma. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then it goes on, and he's actually being rebuked in those verses. So we know he made mistakes, right? And this is simply because he turned a blind man away.
Yeah.
Right? So no Muslim has an issue with saying Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made mistakes.
They have an issue with saying he did sin.
No.
But your understanding of sin is mistakes.
Yeah, but this is the thing. To say sin,
but that would mean Jesus never made mistakes
like
in Islam.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not divulge all of Jesus' life. Right? He said to us he is one of the main mightiest messengers. What do you call it? It's not a holy son. He never says
well,
holy son.
It depends what translation you're in.
He's a pure boy.
Sure. Some say pure, some say holy.
No, well...
I'll give you the translation.
I don't care about the translation.
That's fine, all right. Well,
all right? In the same way, when I'm going to critique your Bible, I'm not going to do it in English. I'm going to look at the Greek.
Right, sure, okay.
Right. So when I look at certain aspects, right, I critique it in Greek.
Yeah, but the only way you know what it means is because it's translated. So we're in the same boat. That doesn't help. When you go and investigate the Greek, unless you're a native Greek speaker who knows it,
because
you're going to know.
Because the thing is, I don't rely on the translations because there are so many. So I actually go into the Greek lexicon. I go into the Greek lexicon on a word or something, and I would see in what context it's used. How many variations, you know, and stuff of this word. When is it used? When is it not? Under what context? Blah blah. All of this stuff, right? So that's how I do it. Like, this is why I know that proskuneo is an ambiguous term, because it's always put in the English translation. It always comes down to worship.
Because that's a common sense think of what's going on here.
No, but there is a.
I mean, Jesus did a divine miracle.
No, but there is a reason why it's translated to worship. But the word itself it doesn't just mean worship. I wouldn't have known that if I just relied on translations.
Right, but that's largely because
so likewise, when you're looking into the Arabic, don't just rely on the bloody translation. Learn a bit of Arabic. It's good for you, right? Yeah. You're picking up another language, right? Well, I have to do the same with. I've got to do it with two languages. I've got to go Hebrew and Greek, okay? But it's going to grow me. So learn a bit of Arabic, man.
Yeah.
I'll teach you for cheap price.
Cheap price, yeah. You know? I'll try YouTube videos first, but you're going to get yourself far. Yeah, I might do. It just takes a lot of time. You know, time is difficult.
I'll make time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, like, I do the same thing with interlinears and concordances.
Let's talk about the Quran, for example. Right? When you used to come here with the stuff about, you know, the history of the Quran.
Yes.
And the context of the Quran and all this stuff, right?
Yes.
It's been heard 1,000 times. Bring something new.
Not by most Muslims, though.
No.
Most Muslims don't know that.
The people you speak to, right? And most Muslims would have known it because Da'wah channels have grown. Most Muslims have come across it. People follow speakers going on every bloody week.
Well, the problem is that Muslims don't say it really much now, which is why I'm surprised you said letter for letter, word for word, dot for dot. Surprised you said that, but I've seen Muhammad Hijab came here, and
I don't care what other Muslims say. I'm talking about the sources. Forget about Muslims.
Right. Okay.
Muhammad Hijab, what do you call it? Sheikh Muhammad.
Yeah. But if people keep saying things I think are incorrect, I'm going to keep calling out.
If the sources are correct, right? If the sources are saying what we're saying, then it's true what we're saying, right? I don't want you to go based on, because I've heard this several times in this conversation. I've spoken to this Muslim. Muslims have told me this. Who cares? Why are you not looking at the thing? It's like, for example, if I asked you now to name me a scholar in Ulum al-Quran, okay? To name the scholar, to name the book, and to name the field in Ulum al-Quran that has not been circulated on the internet, would you be able to do that?
That has not been circulated on the internet?
Yeah.
Well, no, because I mean, the internet is a big place.
Right.
But
that's the thing.
Yeah, but my point is, most Muslims don't know this stuff.
No, but I would be impressed if you know what I know.
Okay, I don't want to compare knowledge things. Like,
but that's the thing. So because I like when you come to me, with these arguments, I just, like I said, I
But
feel
wait,
bad.
don't
I feel
don't-
bad for you.
That's fine. Feel bad for me then. What it is don't get stressed about it. I don't know why you because your demeanor was quite like.
Because I want better for you. So
Well, that's fine.
It's
It's-
passionate. It's passionate.
yes,
Right? I know
but-
it's confrontational, but it's because I'm
Yeah, but
passionate.
I'm not trying to be confrontational. Like if something you came up to me and you were like, Chris, I've read this in the Bible. Can we look at it? I'm not going to be like, don't ever go there. Like, come on, then.
You should.
You know that's
You
not
should.
that's not an appropriate way
You
to
should.
speak. You know.
You should. If it's a crap argument,
no,
you should.
No, I'll be patient with you.
No.
I got patience.
No,
I'll be patient for
look,
days.
If I parroted an argument, you should just tell me to go home and do my homework. You
No, I'll
should.
just tell you why it's wrong because it'll be very quick for me to do it.
Well, I've done that with you as well, but I don't want.
Well, we've
to
jumped
have to
on
do
lots of things,
But I
but-
don't
yeah.
want to have to do that. I want the next time we have a
Yes,
conversation.
okay.
You're coming to me with something that I can actually seriously tackle. And
Well, first of all, I don't actually know what that is because you have a different interpretation of what is a good argument and a bad argument compared to me. But I think your arguments were good. That doesn't mean that I can be like, right, you can never use that argument. It's like, no, come on. That's not fair. But look,
Anyway.
let's leave it on a good note. It was nice having a chat with
we
you.
always leave it on a good note.
Yeah. And as always, God bless you. Come to Christ. Still praying for you.
I'll pray for you.
That's cool, man. Glad you do, man. That's good.
Well, look, I always say this. Let's come to common terms between us. That we worship one God alone. We don't associate any partners with him. Right?
But do you think I do?
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
Because the message, if you believe that the message of Jesus was that he himself was God, it contradicts the message of the people before him. None of them preached that
But
God
I can
would come
say
in
the
flesh.
same thing. No one understood that Allah had body parts as attributes. No one understood like how prayer works in the same way they did
You're
back
right.
then.
Muslims don't believe he
No.
has body parts.
No, they do in a way that they cannot. Because the Salaf did.
I am,
The-
Salaf.
the-
I am from the Salaf.
But the Salaf
from
just
the
went, yes,
Atharite.
he has a shin. That was it.
Do we define it as a body part?
Well, what is a shin?
We say Allahu Alam.
Yeah, no one knows. Yeah, see, again, that's not an answer or a
No,
refutation.
it is.
It's an appeal to mystery.
No, it's not. It's not an appeal to mystery.
Right.
It's simply stating that God has not revealed that information to us.
But he has revealed he has a shin.
So yeah, so he hasn't.
Yeah,
He
well, he has a
hasn't.
shin.
He hasn't described the nature
Right.
of the shin. He hasn't described the nature of the hand or the face.
But-
right?
Common
he-
understanding would say that there's meaning in words. So if you were to describe something like, describe your shin,
Yeah,
I
but
would
we're
be
not
refer-
anthropomorphists.
right, exactly.
You're right that there is.
Well-
But the thing is, if you actually look into the Jewish interpretation, do you think Jews interpret the back of God as something anthropomorphic? No. They actually, I've spoken to them.
they'd be metaphorical,
They say
yeah.
the back of God. It's not. We understand the meaning, but we don't understand what that is, because the language is very clear. Well, God has a back, but how do we understand this in relation to God? We can't.
Really? I'm pretty sure they
this
say it's
is-
metaphorical.
Jews and Muslims are the same in this concept.
So,
So
do
when
you think that
the Jew-
God has some sense he has a back, two right hands, a shin?
Allah has not said about himself in the Quran about a back. But the point is
Okay,
that
well-
the attributations of
Yeah.
God, Jews and Muslims,
Right hands.
Jews and Muslims say the same thing. That we understand the meaning.
I'll ask a Jew about it,
But-
but I haven't heard
Like-
this understanding of Jew.
Yeah, because even do you know when the Bible says that God regretted, a Jew can't accept that because
What?
it goes against the theology that God can regret something, because to regret something means that you don't have prior knowledge of it.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean a literal sense of like a
Right.
human thing.
So they won't be able to explain it.
so it's metaphorical.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. But there is certain language that is being used, because you said there are meaning in words. You're right.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there is a meaning
Yeah.
in the word regret.
Yes.
But
A metaphorical one in this sense.
right. But
Right.
they won't say. But the thing is, we don't say it's metaphorical.
Yeah, but like
We
Jews
say-
don't say that God literally rested on the seventh day.
Some do.
I've never met a Jew that said that God
I've
actually
spoken to some.
rested.
I've spoken to some
What?
that have said that.
Alright, I've never heard of
Well,
it.
most of them don't say that he hasn't. It's metaphorical because it
Yeah,
signifies the Sabbath.
the arm of the Lord.
But if you speak to a Jew and you ask him to describe God, he'll describe him the same as the Muslims.
No, he wouldn't talk
Yeah.
about these things. In your revelation, you have things that are not revealed to the Jews about the nature of God, such as the right hand.
No, but in terms of the concept
shin.
of God, the concept of God.
But that is what God is.
No, the concept of God is exactly the same. The Jews believe in one God. Yeah, He doesn't have, what do you call it? He's not part of a trinity. He's not, what do you call it? He doesn't manifest into the world.
Do Jews have the understanding that there are 99 attributes?
They believe in 72 of them, I believe.
Right, so it's different. Do
It's
Jews...
similar, no, it's not.
You see, we can keep doing this, but ultimately
No,
your
the point
religion
is-
has
the
progressed
point-
from the Jews.
Well,
That's
yeah,
not controversial.
It's not controversial.
Yeah, yeah.
Jews believe in progressive revelation.
Yeah.
So do
Evidently,
we.
so do we. Yeah, we all do.
Right.
There's no... Yeah.
So all we're going to say is that we've been revealed
yeah.
additional information that was given to the Jews. There's no controversy here. It was
Oh, yeah,
progressive-
additional. If you say additional, okay.
Yeah. It's just
But to say
additional
that they're the
information.
same is not the case.
No,
we
it's
believe in the same
because,
thing.
Because the thing is,
Yeah.
despite the additional stuff that we know about Allah,
Sure.
the Jews today will still say the same thing. We worship the same God.
Yeah, but I've seen Jews who say the same thing about Christians. Like, to be honest...
No Jew will say the same thing and say that we worship the same God as Christians.
Well, no, they said it depends how you understand it. They're very careful to know exactly what we mean by that. But as long as we affirm in one God...
Yeah, but
we
they're not
listen.
careful with the Muslims because they understand.
Also, like,
Come on,
rabbinic Jews are so like Joseph, for example. I was having a chat with him, and he was so non-combatant. He just didn't want to get in that discussion because he wasn't interested in it. From his perspective, you know, the Jews were the originators of this revelation, the people of Israel, of whom then came Christians, then came Muslims, and they're like, oh great, you guys all claim one God, brilliant, love it. That's their perspective. You know,
No, they just don't want to get involved.
well, yeah, I agree they don't want to get involved, but like,
But I'm saying in terms of belief, Muslims,
no, like, if I-
Muslims and Jews believe in the same thing.
No.
This is why our places of worship even.
are you talking about Jews today?
Jews today?
But Christians and Jews today don't believe the same thing. Christians and Muslims today,
Jews-
don't believe the same thing. And then Muslims and Jews today don't believe the same
No,
thing.
we did. About God, we did.
No, wait, no. There's a difference in attributes. There's a difference in body parts. Do you believe?
I don't believe in body parts.
Do you believe that you have free will?
Yes.
Where does this? Do you believe that?
So six pillar of the Iman.
Right, but that's also predestination.
Predestination and free will.
How can you be predetermined to do something and be free at the same time?
Do you want to get into it?
Yeah. If you can summarize. But
Okay. So in summary, the choices we make, that's our free will. Well, when something is predestined for us, we know it's predestined when we do absolutely everything in our power, and it still turns out that way. So for example, I did everything in my power to get up for work and get into work on time, but I ended up there late because of traffic, or my tyre went bust out of the blue, or something like that. But I personally have done everything. Then it was destined for me to go to work late that day.
you
On
don't
my
have big
actions,
problems with
on
that.
my actions, they're my own.
I don't think that's consistent.
It's very consistent. But we can talk about that.
All right. Then.
But speak to a Jew, and you'll see.
Well, yeah.
And you'll see that the message that came before you was that of Islam. And then you'll know what I mean by let's worship one God.
Well, I have issues with the idea that Islam even teaches that. I mean, I agree it does, like, it does explicitly say it, but I don't agree that your understanding is one God. And I think it gets problematic because you have other things that are also sans creation.
Then how about this?
And then I have issues
Well,
with that.
clearly you want to get into
We're still
the,
wrapping up.
Yeah. Clearly you want to get into the Aqidah. Next time,
You wanna do our
challenge
Aqidah
my
stuff?
Aqidah.
All right, see you next time.
Bring that stuff.
All right, then. Check it out. All right, God bless. Have a nice day.
You as well.
You want to do a wrap up?
I don't even know which camera's which.
Well, I don't know. Just in that general direction. Yeah. Oh, wait. Should I give him a mic? Yeah.
What do you call it? I mean, subhanAllah, we actually spoke about a lot of things. Today I can't actually remember all of them. I think.
Yeah, we spoke about a lot.
We did actually speak a lot. It was sort of all over the place, but it also tied in. The bottom line is, when it comes to worshipping Allah, there is clear evidences for why Allah is God, why Muhammad ﷺ is the Prophet of Allah, why Jesus is nothing more than a man and a messenger. And we try to discuss these things, but unfortunately we manage to jump between topics rather than stay on a single topic for very long. So it wasn't as fruitful as I would like it, because of how many topics we covered, rather than sticking on one topic. But alhamdulillah, nonetheless, it was a good discussion with respect. Yeah, and that's what's important. Alhamdulillah, at Speaker's Corner, we don't need to shout at one another. We can talk to each other. And ultimately, it's our character that shows through. If your character is good, people will respect you. And as Muslims, this is where your da'wah should start from, your character. And we always say da'wah could be as simple as saying to a person, say la ilaha illallah. You might not have that much information, but that itself is da'wah. But your character is what will bring people towards you. As for the Christians, same advice: establish your character, and you will earn respect from whoever you speak to. And we will always converse with you, so that inshallah, in the hopes that you accept Islam and understand the errors of your ways, the errors that your ancestors have passed down to you. But with that, I ask Allah to guide us all, to keep us sincere. And with that, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sunday. Today is Trinity Sunday.
Well, so just had a good chat with Honest Muslim. We've chatted before. Got to give respect to him because he had a conversation with me when I wanted to have a conversation with Hamza. Hamza didn't want to, but Honest Muslim did want to have a conversation and did have a conversation. You always got to give respect for doing so. It was cordial. We had a nice chat about multiple different topics. I think that I'm not convinced of his arguments. I know he likewise isn't convinced of mine, but at least it was done in a good way. I hope my character came out there as being fair. I know it did for him, and I look forward to our next discussion. Have a happy Trinity Sunday. God bless you all. Take care.